actually, I was going to find out the episode, and I've got a really bad history of remembering episode numbers. I keep getting it wrong. So I'm not going to say what episode number this is, but on this episode of Spahtens.tv, we're sitting down to chat with Raymond, or do you prefer Ray or Raymond?
Ray. Ray's fine.
Ray? Okay, Ray. With Ray Thomson, one of the co-founders of the Wicked Mud Run series. So Wicked Mud Run is a local event that we now have in the Race Local series. And they are held over at Ski Ward, which is south of Worcester.
Yep, Shrewsbury.
Okay, Shrewsbury. And they have an event coming up on September 24th. And I thought it was a really good time to sit down and have a chat with Ray about the event, about where they came from, about him and his co-founders' backgrounds in, and what were they thinking when they got into hosting a race series? Because I always like to hear why a race director thinks, I'm going to set up a race series, because it's not an easy thing to do. And then talk a bit about the race itself. So welcome to the show, Ray.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity. So thank you.
Oh, no problem. So, I mean, let's start out just chatting a little bit about, so the race is co-founded by yourself and Dan O'Rourke, right?
Yep, correct.
So, I mean, I already know Dan's background a little bit, as he's the founder of Energy Bar, and I know you came from a technology and broadcast space. So how did you guys meet, and what was kind of the catalyst for setting up a race series? Why is this happening?
Yeah, so Dan and I actually met through our wives, who are friends. And my wife's been friends with Dan's wife for a very long time. So we ended up meeting probably 7 years ago or so.
Okay.
And then we started hanging out and realized we were into very similar things in terms of like running, and we had an affinity for doing some of these CrossFit events and Tough Mudder type of races and things like that. And what we realized was, there really wasn't a ton at the time anyway. This is a ton of like local races that were kind of somewhere in between, what a Tough Mudder and a Spartan offer, and maybe something on the real low end, right, of level of difficulty. And so we decided, we're sitting on the beach one day, and we decided we were going to start a race that would be local, that would promote healthy lifestyles, that would give back to the community. And so that was kind of the genesis of the race. That was 5 years ago. And the next year we put it together, and that year we actually did 2 races. We did one at the Bolton Fairgrounds in Lancaster, and then we did our first one at Ski Ward.
So what year was that?
That was 2013, right? Yeah, probably 2013.
Huh. I for some reason I thought last year was your first year. I didn't realize you'd had an earlier year and you'd done a couple of different venues.
Yeah, this is our 5th. So this will be our 5th event this year.
Okay.
It's our 4th year of being around.
And you're back at Ski Ward in Shrewsbury.
Back at Ski Ward, which we like for a number of reasons. One was, they have staff that can help us create the obstacles. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I like that they have a bar and a restaurant, which is good because
very important things. Do they have a bar?
Yeah, exactly. They do have a bar and they have a license and all that good stuff. So that's helpful. And then last but not least, the hill, right? The hill itself is an obstacle, and it's challenging. And so we try to use that to our advantage as much as possible. And they've been really good to us. They like it because it brings people in on a weekend that they probably wouldn't get a ton of people showing up on. But they do other things. They have a bicycle race that they run that's pretty big, actually, that they have there. I think it's the weekend after we're there. But yeah, it's a good venue, and we have help, right, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's a big money and time sink if you have to go out and build these things and hire contractors to build them. So if they've got people there, and they used to host a fixed course, right? A training course. Oh, crap, I forget their name now. Didn't they have somebody there last year? They had
They did. They had Elevated Training was there for a couple years, I think. And then they moved someplace else. But yeah. I think they had good success. It was actually great for us because people were going to the hill and training on
Yeah,
it.
they
So
were
a
more
lot of
familiar, right?
yeah. So a lot of people who did that ended up showing up for the race. So it was good.
Now, are you impacted in any way when they moved? Did they take their obstacles? Is that some you have to rebuild stuff?
No, we had a good relationship with them.
Okay.
We actually shared obstacles. So we had a bunch of obstacles, and then they wanted to create some of their own. So we basically just shared them. We said,
Okay.
you guys can use our stuff all summer, and then just leave your stuff up, and we'll take advantage of it for the race that we run. So it was a good partnership.
Okay. I know you affected this year. Do you need to rebuild some stuff they took, or you guys good?
No, I think we're good. So what we did was
Okay.
we talked to them before they left and talked about some of the stuff that they had that we wanted. So we actually bought a few things off of them,
Awesome.
and then we're going to add some more obstacles this year on our own. So yeah, so it was good. I mean, we have a good
Good.
relationship with those guys, and they're good guys.
I I mean, for me, obviously the amount of work we put into local race series and local training facilities to see people working together like that's fantastic. I mean, that's what's going to keep the industry in general going long term. If people stop seeing everyone as a competitor and actually start helping out, I think that's the way to go.
No, for sure.
Now, this year you've got something new happening. So in the past, you were always a 5K distance, and that 5K was it always a non-competitive 5K, or did you have a competitive or I guess the elite wave, which a lot of people don't like the word elite, but a competitive wave?
Yeah, we did. We had a group of people who would typically want to run in the 11 o'clock heat, which is the first heat. That were always, the guys who are pretty serious about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a race menu timed event, so everything's timed.
Okay, good.
And we do give out trophies and prizes to the winner. So top male, top female get a trophy and a prize. And then this year we added the 10K, and so the 10K was again by request, but it was done to sort of add another layer of difficulty for people who really wanted to push it even further. So yeah, this is the first year we've added a 10K wave. There's only one 10K wave. It's the 11 o'clock wave. But yeah, we added that this year, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be pretty cool.
Now, I can tell you for sure that there is always somebody who wants to beat themselves up more. And there's always somebody who wants to do something tougher and harder. And no matter what you set up, there's always going to be somebody saying, well, can I do a 15K?
Yeah, right.
Is the 10K going to be a 2-lap situation, or have you got so it's 2 laps?
Yeah, it'll be two around. We barely get the 5K out of the way we lay it out. There's only so much turf there. So we definitely get the 5K out of there. So this will be good. It's a legit 10K 2 times around. So yeah, you're going to go around the track twice.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And is that going to be the only kind of pro wave or competitive wave, or do you have is there going to be a 5K as well?
We'll have a competitive 5K too. It'll be interesting to see how many of the guys who have been, running the 5K the last 3-4 years will do the 10K, because we've actually had the same guy win the 5K the last 3 years in a row. So it'll be interesting to see if he decides to do the 10K or not.
What's the guy's name?
I can't remember his last name.
That's okay.
His first name's Fausto.
Okay.
I don't know Fausto's last name. I'm sure I probably can't pronounce it, but the guy's very good. And he runs a group that trains, for races and stuff. And so he's really into it. He's a very nice guy, and he's won it the last 3 years. So kudos to him. So it'll be interesting to see if he decides to do the 10K this year, or if you sign up for the 11 o'clock heat, you're signing up for the 10K, and it's pretty well spelled out on Race Menus.
I took a look at it. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, and that'll be the only one though. That'll be the only heat. So if you want to do the 10K, do the 11, and then all the 5Ks will start at 11:15, 11:20, and the rest of them will be 5K.
So if you want to take this guy down, I know there's a bunch of race local peeps out there who are very competitive, and some of them are very quick as well. So this guy's got the crown for 3 years. So
3 years in a row. Yeah.
The shout out is for all the quick guys. Come take him down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, give Fausto a run for his money. He's a good competitor. So
make him earn it.
That's right. That's right. And then for women, we've had different women, I think, win every year. But I'll tell you, they're it's amazing. You know, the groups that we get who run through there, they're just some really talented runners. So it's fun. That the race itself attracts a broad spectrum of people. So we get, you know, the real hardcores that like to run at full speed, and then we'll get a group who just wants to go and do it for fun, right? They get dressed up.
Yeah.
That's their first time doing something like this, and so you know, they're just out there having a good time, and it's good for that too, because we have a live band. You know, we have Cisco Brewery who sponsors the event, so we'll serve Cisco beer among others inside at the bar, and it's just a good, you know, fun day for anybody who doesn't necessarily want to go out there and win it, but just wants to go out there and have a good time.
Right. So we were talking about obviously competitive wave, but you guys are primarily I guess an entry level, family friendly event, right? So these competitive guys, you don't have enforcement, you don't have guys at the obstacles. There's no hardcore kind of mandatory completion, but your focus is on getting people who might be coming out for their first race or want to bring someone out to their first race. Now, do you allow kids on course? Do you have an age limit for kids? Awesome.
Yeah, so 13 and older.
Yeah,
13 and older can run the race. And we get a decent amount. In fact, the last 2 years ago, we had an entire hockey team. These boys were 15-year-old boys, and they were maniacs, and they had a great time, and they were really enthusiastic about doing the race. But yeah, we had the whole hockey team run the course, and it's funny because they ran out of the gate full speed, and by the time they came around, they were a lot of them were dogging it. But yeah, but it's perfect for that, right? It's perfect for that group.
Absolutely.
We get a lot of people who are considering doing something like a Tough Mudder or a Spartan who don't really know what to expect. So our race is a good, like you said, starter race, right? It's a good one to kind of get a feel for what it might be like. We're certainly not offering the level of obstacles you would get at those races, but you know, we definitely have walls and mud pits, and the hill itself is always challenging. There's a segment of the race that runs through the woods, and so there's obstacles all throughout there. So it's definitely challenging, right? It's a challenging run, and like I said, it's good for people who want to win it, but it's also good for people who just want to go out and kind of get a feel for it and have a good time.
If every race on the calendar had the difficulty of Tough Mudder's obstacles, then we wouldn't be doing so many races. So it's, you know, there's totally space for an event that doesn't quite have the 25-foot leap of faith drops and.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Right. And you know, this is the only event we do, at least at this point, per year. So, you know, we kind of pour everything we got into this one, but it's, you know, it's good. You know, we have 10-foot walls, we get 6-foot walls, we have you know, smaller walls than that, and then we have a bunch of other.
You had some submersion under walls and through water and under. Yeah.
So we definitely have some creative stuff, but you know, we're not doing any fire. There's no electrical shock or anything like that.
No one's getting electrocuted taken home in an ambulance.
Yeah, exactly. It's really about just getting out there, running it, do it at your own pace. We do have people at all the obstacles. And you know, we do make people go over them, but if you don't, you know, especially if you're not in that first wave, that's fine. You know,
no harm, no foul.
Yeah, exactly. As long as we really pay attention to that first wave, because that's the group that is definitely into it and they want to win it, and so those guys we obviously enforce. But after that, it's usually just groups out there having a good time.
So for that kind of competitive wave, do you do any kind of a penalty if they fail? Is there?
Yeah, we usually make them do burpees if they can't do the obstacle, and you know, it's either 5 or 10 burpees if you can't do the obstacle. It all depends on the level of difficulty of the obstacle, but again, most of the obstacles we have are.
If someone's running a competitive wave and can't do all the obstacles, then they shouldn't be in that wave.
Too much. Yeah, I mean, most of the guys that are doing it are flying over these things. I mean, they're knocking it out 20, 25 minutes tops. I mean, these guys are in shape, fast, and getting through it pretty quick. So it'll be interesting to see someone go around twice, because I think that'd be amazing.
See how it changes things, right?
Yeah, see how long it takes somebody to do it twice, because you know, definitely people, when they do it and they go full speed, when they come in, they're definitely, you know, they're breathing heavy for sure. So it'll be interesting to see if someone tries to do it 2 times around, how it affects them, you know, as they get into that latter half of the race, you know.
Before we hit record, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but you know, I want to ask for Race Local, when people want to do as many laps as possible and as many miles as possible. It sounds like you're quite open to the idea of people running multiple times and maybe
Sure.
do the 10K and then go back out and keep doing 5Ks. Now, you're not like an all-day event, right? You start at 11 and you end, what I would imagine, early to mid-afternoon, depending on how many people there are.
Yeah, pretty much. So we try to keep the heats to about 50 people tops. And that way there's no backup at the obstacles. Usually, you know, the first part of the race is uphill, so that usually thins out the crowd. And so that in a good way, so that you can get through the obstacles and you're not waiting for anything. So if you want to run more than 2 times around, absolutely, we're totally open to that.
There will be people who want to do
it. And that's great. We'll give out the trophies for people who finish the 1 time around for the 5K and the 2 time around from a timing perspective. You know, you get 2 times around, and whatever your time is, if you win, obviously we'll reward you for that. But in terms of wanting to keep going, sure, you know, we're completely open to that. That's great.
The guys that usually do multiple laps are not necessarily in it to win it, but they will plod around for hours upon hours, and they'll get a lot of miles in, but the first ones won't necessarily be the quickest ones out there.
No, that's great to hear. I love it. We're totally open to that for sure.
Awesome. Now, so obviously one of the big things that you guys focus on, you said it right at the top of the call, it's that, you know, this is primarily for you a fundraiser for some charities, and it's for, you want to tell everyone about the charities you support and, you know, what the history is there.
Yeah, sure. So we're not a 501c, but we are very focused on giving back to the community. So that's really was the big motivation for starting in the first place. So for me, I have a niece who has both tuberous sclerosis, which is a pretty rare genetic, driven disorder, and she also has autism as a net result of tuberous sclerosis. So my big motivation is my niece Jamie, and that's why I started the race, was to bring awareness to tuberous sclerosis, because it's pretty rare and not a lot of people know about it, nor do they have a ton of research done with it yet. So my motivation is to try and give as much money to both TS and which is the Tuberous Sclerosis Alliance, and then Autism Speaks. And then Dan's a former U.S. Marine, and so we give a portion of the money to Big Nick's Ride for the Fallen, which is named after Nick Zaros, who was a U.S. Marine killed in Afghanistan after 9/11. So his dad does an annual motorcycle ride that generates money for that charity that gives money to military families, and so we donate 1/3 of the money we raise for that. So % of net registration proceeds, we do a raffle on race day, which is, you know, made up of primarily items that are donated by local businesses. And we give 100% of that money away to those charities. And then online, we have a GoFundMe set up, donate it for whatever reason they can't make the race, but they want to donate to the charities, and we give that. We basically split it 3 ways evenly and send those checks out to those organizations afterwards.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's really a big motivator for us, and even if the race doesn't make money, which it never has up to this point, we're really
they never do.
We're really doing it mostly for this reason. Honestly, even if the race doesn't make money, we still find a way to give money to these charities. So it's really it's an awesome thing. It makes it really meaningful and keeps it motivating for all of us. So
awesome. I mean, I think, as I said earlier, when we talk about race local events and we're looking at the kind of race that we want to support, it's races like what you guys are up to, right? You've got a history, you've got an established level of quality and of a section in the market, and it's not about the hardest races or the toughest races, but races that are worth supporting. And I think anyone who's got a really good charitable partner and is putting on a consistent quality event, that's what Race Local is about. It's getting people to realize that there's more to life than running a Spartan or a Tough Mudder, and there's plenty of local races you can go out and run for a significant amount less than a big box race would be. What's an entry? What's the a typical kind of entry price for you right now? Do you go up in price? Do you have a price bump coming?
Yeah, no, it's $38.
Oh wow!
Consistent. Yeah, it's $38 to run the race, and that includes the race menu fee, and then for the 10K, it's $58 to run the race, and again, that includes the race menu fee. So it's a pretty, inexpensive race. You get a really good day out of it. We give medals to everybody that finishes. You get a
Gotta have the bling.
beer if you're and yeah, exactly. Actually, the medal's cool because you can open beer bottles with it.
Even better
as well. So it's dual purpose. But yeah, and it's just a fun event. It's just
awesome.
a good time.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I think, like I said, the whole point of getting this show together is to put this in front of people. I think we've told them what they need to know, and it's get out and support a local race. You're not going to pay anywhere near what you'd pay for a big box race, and you're going to have a damn good time and a good beer at the end, and get a medal that opens bottles.
That's right. I mean, who's giving out
really anything else to it?
And yeah, and that's really it. If we have good weather, I mean, last year we had great weather, and people stayed till like 6, 7 o'clock at night. I mean, they had such a good time. And the band is a band called the Hoochies, which play Southern rock, and they're an excellent band. We had them last year, and everybody loved them so much. We're bringing them back this year, and we've actually been pretty fortunate with the bands that we've gotten to play the event. They've all been really, really good. And then in between, we're playing, music off an iPod. So you have that aspect of it, and then you have, people just running the course and hanging out on the porch. The ski board has an outdoor porch area, patio area, so you can hang out outside, listen to the band after the race. And we have EMTs on site, so from a safety perspective, we can respond to anything. Knock on wood, we haven't had any issues so far. So obviously, we hope that continues. But we do have EMTs in the event that something happens.
We have some pretty clumsy people, so they may end up with the EMTs.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's and we give away water, right? I mean, when you come across the finish line, we'll hand you your medal and a bottle of water, and then there's water throughout the course. We try and put a water station at every mile marker.
Oh wow, every mile marker, huh? I mean,
yeah. So
those are the basics that even Spahtens screw up still. I mean, they're getting a lot of flack right now for not providing enough water on course and crossing the finish line and being handed an energy drink and and a banana, and that's it. And I think if you can nail the absolute basics, then you're golden.
It's key. I mean, I know for me, because I'm definitely not like a hardcore in terms of like doing obstacle races and things like that. I run, but I'm not. I'm a little older and I'm not super in shape, but I know for me, I need water.
I'm the same.
So I think about it from my perspective. I'm like, man, I want water every time I cross a mile marker. So we try and make sure we have waters ready for everybody at those points. And, if it ends up being a warm day, which I hope it does, you're going to need it. So, yeah. So it's we try and think of as many little things. And from a registration perspective, we're still pretty small, but, I think we've kind of gotten the registration routine down pretty well. And the fact that it's all race menu, everything comes ready to go. So if you're running an 11 o'clock heat, you probably want to get there around 10:30, and we get everything cycled through. You can show up and register as early as 10 a.m. on race day. We do take day of registrations too. So if you want to just show up, you can. And we don't charge anybody anything more for showing up race day.
Okay.
Yeah. So we welcome all comers, even on race day itself. We don't really do any discounts, but it's a cheap race anyway. So
no, I mean, you don't need to at that price point, I don't think. What do you see as the future? What's the next 2-3 years for Wicked Mud Run?
What I'd love to do, honestly, is add more events to it. I wouldn't mind doing just a straight up 5K. On the road, maybe a 10K. And do a second event like that every year, again, and mostly as a way to drive awareness and raise some more money for these organizations. And then who knows, maybe we'll move to a bigger venue if the event got big enough. Maybe we would move it to an even bigger place, but we're just not at that point yet. But we're very happy with Ski War. They've been nothing but good to us. But yeah, if the event ever got big enough, maybe we add a second day or we move to a bigger place. Who knows? But
awesome.
But yeah, right now it's really just making sure we put on a quality event, making sure it's safe. And one of the biggest things I like too is as cool as it is to see the guys who are really fast run through the course. I also get a kick out of people who are doing it for the first time. People get really emotional. When you see people come across the finish line who didn't think they could do the race. even if they walk part of the course, doesn't matter because they come across and they're holding hands and they get emotional, man. And that's a big, that's really cool to see too. I get a lot out of that as well. So
well, I think
that's why I like doing this race.
I think what Warrior Dash has very much kind of nailed that national market of being everyone's gateway drug. And, you know, it's that easier level. And really, it's all about that sense of accomplishment. It really doesn't matter how hard the race was in the middle, but that accomplishment people get when they cross the finish line for the first time and they're given a medal and, you know, and made to feel like you've just ran the same course as this guy did in 20 minutes. You did it too. It's a huge thing. I mean, one of the big things we do in the New England Spahtens is, of course, we bring people out for the first race, and then a group of Spahtens will go out with them. And that's just as rewarding as going around for time. You know, the vast majority of people are not out there for time. And I think that's awesome that there's you know, a focus on that.
Yeah, we've had people show up like the year after saying that we motivated them, right? They did a mud run and then they went on and did a Spartan and a Tough Mudder and they lost weight and stuck with it and all that. I mean, that's so rewarding to hear that when you have people come up and say that, and they bring other people to the race, right, for the same thing. So yeah, that's huge, getting to see that happen. You know, I'm trying to think what else I could tell you. I mean, parking is free. You know, you don't have to pay for
okay. That's actually huge because parking can be a significant expense.
Yep. So
and it's on site, right? There's no busing in. No,
there's no buses or anything. You literally park right there, and you can walk right up to the event.
That's awesome.
We do have a tent where you can leave your wallet and stuff. We didn't the first couple of years, and so people, you know, mentioned we should do that. So we do that now. So we have a place where you can leave your keys and your wallet or whatever as you run the course. And then, you know, we don't charge for spectators either. Just come one, come all, come have a good time.
And at $38, if you're showing up as a spectator, you may as well run.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously. Even if you walk it, you know what I mean? You're having a good time. And I'm part of the course myself, so.
Do you run it often? Do you go out there yourself and test it out?
You know, when you set it up, man, you're up and down that mountain a million times. And, you know, Dan and I definitely do the bulk of the setup. So
you're up and down the mountain.
We're up and down it quite a bit that week. So by the time the week's over, you know, I can run it at a decent pace, you know, so, but that's the last thing I'll mention is just volunteers. You know, if anybody wants to volunteer, we always welcome volunteers. We have a good group of people. You know, I come from a big family, so my whole family shows up on race day to help, you know, man the obstacles and be there to help. But, you know, if anybody wants to volunteer too, we can always use volunteers. You can run the course for free if you want to volunteer. Awesome. So you know, we don't need 50 people, but, you know, 20, 25 people is usually about what we look for to run and help just man the obstacles and just make sure everybody's getting through okay. I have a niece, actually. She's on the Yukon timber team, which does like, they basically, you know, they're like using axes to chop wood really fast, and they use the giant old saws and they saw stuff. So there's actually a competitive team, and they compete against other schools in the Big East.
Okay.
AAC, and so their whole team's going to come help us from a volunteer perspective. But we will get, you know, if somebody's interested, certainly message us on Facebook. That's probably the best place to get a hold of us is our Facebook page. So
I think there's a lot of people out there who do, you know, look to trade time for a free race.
Sure.
So yeah, we'll put that one out there because I'm sure there'll be people who'll take you up on it.
Yeah, that'd be great. And you know, the only thing we ask is that you stick at the obstacle.
Do your damn job.
Good job, and then do the volunteer heat, and which is usually the last heat of the day. So
yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for making time today. I think.
No, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. This is great.
And I hope we see a lot more people out, and let's support local racing.
Yeah, hopefully we see you guys on 924.